Hey folks, Beckloff here. So this is just a little test of my camcorder, see how good of a video I can get out of it. So I'm just going to take a little tour through my bookshelf here, my nerdy shitlordy bookshelf. So alright, so we come up here, we got a little Zelda bookend that a friend of mine did that does woodworking. A little amiibo holder. We got the Zelda Hyrule Historia and Arts and Artifacts, just a couple of big Zelda coffee table books. We got the complete NES guide from Pat the NES Punk, Tomb Raider Archives Volume 1 here. The Top Cow Tomb Raider comic was really good. I really loved it. We got a book here reprinting some of the Valiant Super Mario Brothers comics, which were based mostly off of the cartoon from the time, but the writing was actually a little better than the cartoon. We got the trade paperbacks reprinting the Nintendo Power Mario and Zelda comics. We got a Game Boy World. It's a guide to all the Game Boy games that were released in 1989. Super Game Boy, the book that came with the Super Game Boy. Mega Man 1 through 8, the Archie comic series, and the Sonic Mega Man crossover, the first one. Because the second one, the trades won't be finished for it, apparently, because of whatever's going on with Archie comics. Sonic Genesis and the Sonic Encyclopedia. Console Wars, really great book on the Nintendo and Sega battles from the 90s. Mega Man and Street Fighter character guides, a couple of volumes of the Udon Darkstalker comic, really good stuff. And some of the Zelda mangas, a couple of the Pokemon mangas. A little book I got at a con. It's just a guide to gaming in 1991. It's kind of an interesting little read. And there's the other Zelda bookend. Little Link guy that still had a cross on his shield. I love that little figurine. Oh, and there's a nice little gondola that Jennifer Dahl made for me. Alright, coming down to the kind of shitlord section here. We got the Book of Genesis. It is illustrated by R. Crumb. Why Jesus by Ravi Zacharias, good book. Little Playboy Redheads kind of picture book somebody got me for Christmas the one year. But, you know, artsy nudes. There's nothing bad about that. King James Bible and the Message. Men on Strike. Love and Delight, which was kind of a book on the church reaching out to homosexuals without compromising the truth. Good read. Romans 13. This is a little book on, how Christians should respond to corrupt leadership. Analyzing the Romans 13 passage. I got that from InfoWars for, I don't know, I donated money to them years ago, but it's actually a pretty good read. Nineveh or Bust by Dr. Jamie Mitchell. That was a former pastor of mine, and it's a pretty solid book. Enjoy the Decline by my good buddy Aaron Clary, one of the few books I actually have signed. Evolutionary Psychology Behind Politics. Absolutely must read. The RK Theory, it's almost impossible to understand politics these days without the RK Theory. Highly, highly recommend that. Jewish Supremacism by David Duke. It's basically a good book. There's a lot of good information in it, but Dr. Duke is not much of a writer. It's a dry and rough read. True Story of the Bilderberg Group. Pretty solid book on that mess. I mean, you got to take some of it with a grain of salt, I suppose, but it's one of those things where there are a lot of facts in it. Not theories, but absolute facts. And if even half of it's true, it's very damning. Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. Absolutely must read. Hard to get through, though. It'll boil your blood. Trump, Art of the Deal, because of course. The Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brooks there. I used to have World War Z, and I lost it in a move, and I just haven't gotten around to replacing it. I've been meaning to, but I just never think to look for a new copy. But I do absolutely want to replace it. Three Free Sins by Steve Brown, one of my favorite preachers. His ministry, Key Life, was very instrumental in leading me to Christianity. And this is the first book I've ever had signed. The Way of Men by Jack Donovan. There's a lot you can say about Jack Donovan, and I certainly have more than a few disagreements with him, but truth is truth, regardless of who says it, and that is a very good book on the nature of masculinity. Similar with Gorilla Mindset. It's a very good read. I mean, you'd certainly take a lot of issues with Cernovich, but still a good book. Democracy, the God That Failed by Hans Hermann Hoppe. I mean, what do you even say about that? You know, that's a book that a lot of people need to read. I certainly wouldn't call myself a monarchist. I still take several issues with it, but that book definitely brought me in that direction a little bit. Swallowed by Satan by Joseph A. Sciambra. I'm bad at pronouncing names. Really good book about a former homosexual who came to Christ. It's a bit too Catholic for my taste in its theology, but it's still a very good book on the nature of the homosexual world. Summa Helvetica by actually Vox Day, but it's Theodore Buell, I guess is his real name. Is how he pronounces it. But he published this under his actual name, not his pen name, and it's one of the best fantasy novels you can find out there. SJW is Always Lie by Vox Day. That's a must read. And I've actually given this to normie friends to explain just what SJWs are, to explain the whole Gamergate controversy. Conservative, again, by Vox Day and John Red Eagle. Absolutely fantastic read. As I Walk These Broken Roads by my good buddy Dave Serini. Another book that I have signed, as well as Newsquam by a friend of the show and friend of mine, Ann Sturziner. Another book I've had signed. Both great novels. Into the Cannibal's Pot by Alana Mercer. One of the first books that kind of red-pilled me on race. It's basically the story of the hellscape that South Africa turned into after apartheid ended. And The Fed by Ron Paul, because, of course, Jesus Among Other Gods by Ravi Zacharias. Ravi Zacharias is a tremendous apologist, and his stuff's really good. C.S. Lewis, what do we got here? The Screwtape Letters and the Abolition of Man. I had Mere Christianity, but I don't know what the hell ever happened to it. I know I loaned it out a bunch, and to be honest, I think I just ended up not getting it back sometime. A couple other books by Ravi Zacharias here. We got Sense and Sensuality and The Lamb and the Fuhrer. They're basically little, sort of small little novels told of... It's basically Oscar Wilde and Adolf Hitler, respectively, talking to God shortly after their death. They're very good reads, though. Here we have Fuck, Word Taboo, and Protecting Our First Amendment Liberties. Yeah, that was a really good book on just the overall history of the word fuck. Theories on where it comes from, as well as legal battles surrounding the word. Necronomicon, because I'm a horror fan. And Clive Barker, The Hellbound Heart. That's the novel that would become Hellraiser. And we got little Kirby here, a couple of Kirbys. A little bank based on a old mailbox. About 30 bucks worth of change in there, actually. And then down here, some nerd shit. We got the Blue Beetle Companion. It's basically a history of the Blue Beetle franchise, going all the way back to the Golden Age Fox Comics Blue Beetle. Dan Garrett, I think was his name. And then just up till that Mexican kid that took it over shortly after that book was, or shortly before that book was published. I'm sorry, moving the camera around here. We got the first 8 volumes of Empowered. Absolutely amazing read. A few of the volumes of Sin City. I bought these shortly after I saw the movie because I had never read any of them. And I basically just bought the volumes that weren't in the movie, the first movie. I've kind of wanted to get all the volumes, though, because they form a picture of Nancy on the spine when you put them on the shelf and all. But it's just hard-pressed to buy other volumes merely for that reason. both of the Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossovers that came out in the last couple of years. Really good stuff. TMNT Collected Book 1. That's the first 10 issues of the original Ninja Turtle comic, plus the 4 one-shots for each of the Turtles. We got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ghostbuster crossover, Star Trek Green Lantern and the Spectrum War, Star Trek Legion of Superheroes, Star Trek Planet of the Apes. 3 really good crossovers with the old Star Trek there. The first volume of the Wild Storm Nightmare on Elm Street comic. The first big omnibus volume of Dynamite's Red Sonja. Dynamite's Red Sonja was absolutely fantastic, basically right up until Gail Simone took it over. Here we got the Tobin Spirit Guide, came out recently. I actually got Ernie Hudson to sign that, so. The first volume of Grant Morrison's JLA run. Grant Morrison's JLA run, it hasn't aged quite that well, but it's still hard to not love it, and it was so... I mean, it was kind of just taking the JLA back to the basics, back to the Big Seven, and it was, in many ways, it was right place at right time, and I freely admit that my love for it is largely nostalgic, but I still think it's a good read for anyone interested in JLA. JLA Illegal 1, solid read, mostly a Wonder Woman story, but still good. JLA Earth 2, probably the best of Grant Morrison's run. And JLA Syndicate Rules is... Again, both those are stories involving the post-crisis crime syndicate, which I just adore those guys. The JLA Avengers crossover, damn good stuff. Identity Crisis, really great stuff. You know, that's the book that Linkara, it made Linkara's pussy hurt because it had rape in it. Which is extremely ironic given the amount of rape that was in Linkara's webcomic, but alright. Green Lantern Rebirth, Green Lantern Secret Origin, Green Lantern The Blackest Night. And as I've said numerous times on here, Jeff Jones' Green Lantern run is absolutely fantastic. These are a few of the choice volumes. I've been meaning to get Sinestro Corps War, just haven't gotten around to picking it up. It's hard to justify getting trades that, you know, I already have read stuff to, even if there's stuff I want to reread. So I tend to try and look for them on sale. Green Lantern Quiver, Green Arrow Quiver, Green Arrow The Archer's Quest, 2 of the best Green Arrow stories. All-Star Batman and Robin, Volume 1, and The Dark Knight Returns. You know, Frank Miller on Batman, you can't go wrong. I don't care what anybody says. I always got a kick out of All-Star Batman and Robin. You got to take it as an Elseworld, but if you take it as a Batman story filtered through Sin City sensibilities, it's pretty damn good. Definitely one of the better alternate universe type stories. The Power Girl series from a few years ago. I guess 09 it started, something like that. Really great stuff, especially the Amanda Conner stuff. Wonder Woman, I can never pronounce that word. Haikitia? Sorry, I'm really bad with pronouncing words, but absolutely fantastic, both Wonder Woman and Batman story. The storyline there is, the Haikitia refers, and again, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, it refers to this vow, I guess in Greek culture, where you could put yourself under someone's charge almost as a slave, but they had to protect you. And some criminal basically does that to Wonder Woman, and then Batman wants to bring her in, and Wonder Woman won't allow it. So, solid story. Dead Man, Lost Souls, really good Dead Man story. Sandman, Preludes and Nocturnes. I've only read this volume of Sandman so far, but I do really like it. Crisis on Infinite Earths. You know, that's a really good read, but it's a very dense read if you're not familiar with DC history. Yeah, you almost need a play-by-play on that. I'm sure a lot of the milkshake drinking fake geek girls never read that shit, but Kingdom Come, one of the first trades I ever bought. And Watchmen, overrated, but Watchmen is still good. Joker trade came out around 08. Brian Azzarello, always bad with names, but really good read. Superman Earth 1, volumes 1 and 2. I've been meaning to get volume 3, just haven't gotten around to it, but volumes 1 and 2 are absolutely fantastic. Action Heroes, volume 2, archive edition. That reprints a lot of the Charleston characters. You know, Blue Beetle, Captain Atom, The Question, those guys. As I've said numerous times, if you listen to this channel at all, you know I adore those characters. So, We got the first volume of Astro Boy, reprinted recently by Dark Horse. Little Spider-Man bobblehead. A buddy of mine got that for me, I think in 2012. That became like the Pop guys now, but I don't even think they were called that back then. Like, I think this guy's head is smaller than those, but whatever. This is a nice little gift I got years ago. Alright, moving down here to the bottom shelf, where we got Marvel. Marvel Knights Encyclopedia and Spider-Man Encyclopedias. Those were interesting little reads. Spider-Man, it just says Volume 1, but it's the Mark Millar Marvel Knights run. We got Spider-Man Sinister Six, good little hardcover with some Sinister Six stories. Essential Spider-Man's Volume 1 and 2. Man, I got those close to 20 years ago now. Spider-Man, The Black Cat, The Evil That Men Do. Kevin Smith is a damn good superhero story writer when he actually gets off his ass and did it, but there was a 3-year delay between issues of that miniseries. Get your fat ass off the couch, Kevin. Spider-Man Red Sonja, two of my favorite characters, and a great little crossover. Spider-Man The Cosmic Adventures, that's when he got the Captain Universe powers. Amazing Spider-Man Death of Jean DeWolf. I actually had Peter David sign that recently. Spider-Man Revelations, that was the end of the Clone Saga story arc. Here we got Mangaverse Spider-Man hanging on some of my books here. Amazing Spider-Man Ultimate Collections Volume 1 and 2 by JMS. That's reprinting most of the Totem stuff, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I didn't get Volume 3 because even though it ends the Totem stuff, it also has that really terrible shit he did afterwards. The Very Best of Spider-Man, that was actually a present I got for my 17th birthday by a good friend of mine. So, that's how old that's been there. Spider-Man Visionaries, Todd McFarlane, reprinting some of the early Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, which was absolutely fantastic. Spider-Man and My Avenger, just some of the early Spider-Man and Avengers team-up stories throughout the years. Two of my favorite Marvel franchises. So, Spider-Man Hobgoblin Lives. That time in Spider-Man's history, there was about 2 years, right after the Clone Saga, right before the relaunch. Some of the best Spider-Man I think was ever published, in my opinion. And I know a lot of it's my nostalgia, but that's one of the best stories from that time. Amazing Spider-Man Kraven's Last Hunt, of course. You know, Spider-Man Return of the Goblin. That was what was it? Roberto Ramas, and man, I can't think of the writer's name off the top of my head, blanking on it, but really good Green Goblin Spider-Man story. Some more Spider-Man Sinister Six story arcs, Spider-Man Mary Jane trade, because I loves me some Mary Jane. Spider-Man Vengeance of Venom, just reprinting some of Venom's earlier appearances. Spider-Man Maximum Carnage, very underrated story arc in my opinion. Carnage Classics Volume 1 there. It's reprinting basically all the early Carnage stories except for Maximum Carnage. So, Spider-Man The Real Clone Saga there. That's basically a little mini-series they did, kind of an alternate universe where the writers are telling the story of what they wanted to do with the Clone Saga before editors interfered with it too much. And it's an interesting little read. Spider-Man Reign, that's sort of Spider-Man's Dark Knight Returns, but it's still a good read. Spider-Man India, it just sort of reimagines the Spider-Man story in India with, you know, with Indian people and through Indian culture, but it's a very good read. Squadron Supreme, reprinting the Squadron Supreme series from the 80s. Really great stuff. Wow, man, what was the writer's name again? Blanking on the writer's name. Come on, where is it? Mark Grunwald. He actually, this was reprinted shortly after he died, and as per his will, he actually had some of his ashes mixed into the ink of the first run of these trade paperbacks. Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars, because of course, Silver Surfer, Rebirth of Thanos. Just some pre-Infinity Gauntlet Thanos Silver Surfer stories, really good stuff. Infinity Gauntlet and then the sequel Infinity War, great stuff. Great 90s crossovers. Thunderbolts Classics, I've talked about how the early Thunderbolts is some of the best stuff you can read, best superhero stuff you can read from the 90s at least. And this reprints the first chunk of that. I've been meaning to get volume 2, but again, you know, if I'm going to buy a trade of stuff I've already read, it's got to be on sale or something. Avengers Assemble Volume 1 here. This is just reprinting Kurt Busiek and George Perez's run on Avengers starting at Volume 3, at the beginning of Volume 3. Avengers Forever, an absolutely fantastic Avengers story, but it is very continuity heavy. It should not be your first Avengers story, let me put it that way. An old trade of the New Fantastic Four that was a story arc where Spider-Man, Wolverine, Hulk, and Ghost Rider actually briefly took over as the Fantastic Four. It's a very goofy 90s story, but it's a lot of fun. Earth X, that's in many ways sort of Marvel's Kingdom Come. Very good series, very underrated this day and age. A lot of people seem to have kind of forgotten about it. Wolverine, Old Man Logan, that's of course what the Logan movie is inspired by. I don't even want to say based off of, because there's just so many differences, but absolutely great read. Daredevil Redemption, that is the story of Daredevil. If you've ever heard the story of those guys, those boys down in Tennessee that got accused of killing this kid because they were a bunch of metalheads and everyone just thought they were Satanists because of it. This is basically a story loosely based off that, where Matt Murdock is essentially their defending attorney. Daredevil Legends Volume 1, that's actually reprinting Daredevil Yellow, which is a really good retelling of Daredevil's earliest time. Daredevil Born Again, one of the best Daredevil stories you can find here. We got Daredevil Visionaries Kevin Smith. That's basically just Daredevil Guardian Devil. Daredevil Parts of a Whole, that's the story right after that where they introduced the character Echo. Daredevil Legends Volume 4, that's early Typhoid Mary stuff. And we have Ultimates Volume 1 and Ultimate Spider-Man Volumes 1 through 6. We got Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom, Triumph and Torment, as well as The Death of Captain Marvel by Jim Starlin here. And over here, got my 3DS game cases. I don't know where else to put them, with a safety word is banana. Alright, folks, and that is my shitlord / nerdy bookshelf. I hope this video turned out okay. I'll take a look at it and maybe throw it up here. So, you know, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And alright, talk to you all later, folks. Beckloff out.